We have made clear statements many times in the recent past with very little response from the government. Despite the calmness we are experiencing, there is a lot of anxiety, and most people are losing trust in the government.
We recall the pertinent and resolved issues we have raised recently with the government: over taxation of Kenyans, the hiking of the missionary work permits, youth unemployment, regulations of the education system, especially the CBC and university loan scheme. This culture of lies, unkept promises, and misplaced priorities is unacceptable and needs to be dealt with.
We are here today to do this together. And I want to ask all of us, leaders, the clergy, Kenyans, to work together towards a nation that we can all be proud of. And even as we engage in public discourse on matters that are important to the people of Kenya, we must be careful to be factual, lest we become victims of the things we accuse others of doing.
So welcome back again. And the question of the day is, why is the clergy having a hard time in criticizing the government? Remember, the clergy or the religious leaders of Kenya for the longest time have been quiet against the injustices that the government of today has done to Kenyans. And most likely, the reason as to why the clergy has been silent is because, remember, these are human beings. And unlike God, these religious leaders have always been fooled with the huge amounts of money that they have been having. They also want to have a good life. This has resulted them to have many projects, many arambais, in a way of ensuring that most of their project is finished. Remember, these religious leaders come up with the idea that they want good houses, they want good cars, and they want the church that they attend to be generally very good. And one particular people that are likely to facilitate these things are politicians. And most of these politicians, the money that they use is public funds, not from their salary, but rather those funds that have been gotten through ill means, most likely from the pockets or the accounts of the government. These politicians receive a lot of amounts so as to ensure that there's development in their specific constituencies, counties, or any other area that they have been given these positions. This has also included all other public servants, but mostly likely, remember, these politicians, they do what they do so that they can be seen. Now, this includes like having the Wavinya Cup, having the Sakaja Cup, that they use public funds to brand those projects with their name, with a name of being able to be seen, so that it can feel like it is their courtesy or it is their mercies that we are having these things. Yet, it comes from the pockets of Kenyans. Very unfair. And, when you allow these people, when you allow these politicians to stand in these pulpits with money that does not belong to them, now the religious leaders shift their loyalty against God, but towards the money, because the one that give this money are these politicians. Now, here a problem comes that the religious leaders need to speak against the government for their injustices, since, remember the first time Kenyans, people they believe that Kenyans have towards God and their mercies, and by the pastor maybe what the fear that inserts that if you're not going to do this, God is going to do this to amass wealth. And remember, Kenyans are easily being conned by people claiming to be religious leaders, and people tend to be blinded by those religious outfits, and Kenyans are easily lured because they believe that someone that they worship together with is not likely to take advantage of them. Well, this does not even only apply to the political space alone. I remember that man from Eldoret who had conned a lot of people by telling them that if they are going to invest in him, he's going to almost double his amounts. And at the end of it all, people took money and that guy lost. And he was a key figure in the church. And the one that pushed this con game were the religious leaders who also ended up being the same victims of these malicious plans. Now, these politicians have funded or given a lot of money to these religious leaders. The cars that they own are, by big percentage, a funding of these politicians. The houses that they stay is a funding of these politicians. The churches that these religious leaders head are funded by these politicians who want to show that it is from their heart or it is out of their courtesy that this project were fulfilled. Now, this can be confirmed by one particular time when they say that Oscar Sudi was able to finance a church project by giving 20 million. Now, with this contribution that the politicians give to the churches, they are likely to receive a free audience that is free from violence, that is free from rejection, that is free from them being ejected forcefully or being beaten, because the one or these angry people that their dreams have not been satisfied respect God and they cannot fight back. But because the religious leaders have been conned, they have been bribed, they are likely to listen to these people more than the congregates that actually are the taxpayers and that they give this money and that they're the one that pushes these projects. Now, with a lot of these projects being contributed by politicians, now this affects the judgment, and it's hard for someone that you are a partaker, because we say that the religious leaders, in one way or the other, they are or assist these politicians to continue to embezzle funds, because they continue to receive these funds for project without questions. And if these politicians are wrong, it's hard to judge someone who has funded almost everything that you have, because sasa akikwambia umrudishie utatoa wapi? It becomes hard. This limits their judgment, and it becomes hard for them to criticize the same government that has been funding their projects. And yet, when they got the money, they never questioned the means of the money. Now, the religious leaders are having a lot of problem in criticizing the government. And now, this has put us in a lot of trouble. So thank you. Let's meet next time.